The media watchdog Reporters Without Borders says global press freedom has hit a new low, with more and more countries seeing rollbacks. In its annual survey, the group said that for the first time, conditions are ranked poor in half the world's countries. The group released this map showing how countries rank in terms of press freedom. Those shaded in green in Northern Europe did the best, but the number of top performers has decreased since last year. The report says rising instability around the world, growing authoritarianism in certain countries, and above all, economic pressure are taking a huge toll on press freedom. The list of worst-ranked countries grew dramatically from last year, from 36 to 52, most in Asia and the Middle East. China, Russia, Turkey and Iran are among those who did the poorest. The United States is part of the downward trend, slipping 2 points within the problematic category. That's in part due to the Trump administration limiting press access to the White House and the president's lawsuits against media companies. DW's Washington bureau chief Ines Pohl has more.
Freedom of the press in the United States is in a problematic situation, according to the latest World Press Freedom Index. What exactly does this mean for journalists? How endangered is freedom of speech in Trump's America? We met David Maraniss, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author of numerous books, including biographies of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama.
Even though every president has a spin, there's a nuance, an important difference between spin and outright lying, and sort of saying that black is white and white is black, which is what the Trump people do every day and do it so often that it's dizzying.
It's Donald Trump's second term. How has his rhetoric changed?
When Trump first took office in 2017, he described the press as enemies of the people. At that point, Marty Barron, who was the editor of the Post, said, "We're not at war, we're at work." Today, it's different. It really is a war in many senses.
Maraniss, a fellow of the Society of American Historians, gave us some historic context.
I mean, the attacks on the press every day, the attacks on truth, the twisting of reality is so serious and so endangering democracy that I think the press in the United States has never been in this situation before.
Every year, Reporters Without Borders publishes its Press Freedom Index ahead of World Press Freedom Day. We met Clayton Weymers, Executive Director of Reporters Without Borders USA, in his office in Washington.
The United States has been undergoing what you could call a decline in press freedom for several years now. When we started doing the index in 2002, the United States was ranked 17th in the world. It's not as high as I think most Americans would like it to be, since we're very proud of our First Amendment, but still better than where it is today at 57th out of 180 countries, which is shockingly low for the country of the First Amendment.
According to Clayton, the decline is not only because of Donald Trump. The index covers data from 2024, pointing to a worsening media environment even before Trump returned to power.
We're also seeing a really heavy concentration of media ownership, which has the eventual effect of restricting how many points of view and voices are out there for people to be able to access. Some years ago, more Americans were tuning into journalism to get their information, and so there was a natural constituency of the public to defend journalism, to defend journalists in the face of attacks. With fewer and fewer Americans getting their information, getting their news from journalistic sources, there's fewer people standing up to the president when he attacks this pillar of our democracy.
How is Donald Trump influencing other authoritarian world leaders?
When Donald Trump signals that the United States is no longer invested in defending press freedom, they take that cue as an opportunity for them to crack down on the press in their countries. And we're seeing it in places like Serbia already.
Back in David Maraniss's office.
I think we're on the road to tyranny, but we're not quite there yet. But Trump would love to be a dictator.
Anja Osterhaus is Executive Director of Reporters Without Borders Germany. Take us through some of the examples of where Trump is muzzling the press in the United States.
Yeah, there are too many, unfortunately. So one thing is certainly constant attacks on his social media account, but also in public in general. That he accused very serious, established news outlets as lying or corrupt or even illegal. But also, as mentioned just now, the judicial processes, lawsuits against media. And we also see the freezing of USAID, which has an enormous effect on media in other countries of the world.
And funding cuts to some of these public broadcasters, important information to the rest of the world. Would you call it a systemic assault on the media?
Difficult to say. It's clear that it's strategic. It's not isolated incidents. It's really constant and strategic in the sense that Donald Trump and his administration, they try to reduce as much as they possibly can the critical voices to his own administration and his own policies. If you don't allow critical media anymore access to your own press conferences, of course, the number of critical questions are reduced and the amount of critical coverage is also reduced.
So hoping for an easy ride. Let's bring up that world map again that you guys put together. What else stands out to you in the report?
What is really shocking is that half of the world's population is now living in countries where the state of press freedom is poor, is problematic, is highly restricted. So that means that half of the world's population has limited or even no access to free and independent news.
And that at a time that the world in so many countries is divided over so many issues.
Yeah, sure. And it also shows that, of course, in autocratic countries, the first thing autocrats try to reduce is critical voices, such as media. So we are really in a very difficult situation in so many parts of the world.
You also say in your report that economic pressure limits press freedom. How?
In multiple ways. So media concentration is a problem in many countries. Also, we all know that advertisement markets are shrinking. They go to social media a lot and reduce to the established press. And also public institutions, states often use their own advertisement budgets to influence the news outlets. So they restrict their own advertising to positive coverage of the policy. So this is very dangerous because it is an interference into the independence of the media houses.
Now, Germany has a huge and dynamic media landscape. Why has it dropped out of the top 10?
It dropped slightly from 10 to 11. So what we can see is that there is a standstill on the political in political changes. So we really needed changes and adjustments on legislation, which didn't happen in the last legislation in the last government. So we very much hope that the incoming government will change that. We see quite some aggression towards journalists on streets, particularly related to demonstrations, which is definitely affecting the security of journalists to speak and cover particularly right extreme issues or other challenging items in Germany.
There are some improvements, though, in parts of the world. In South Africa, for example. Are there developments that give you hope after doing this report?
Yeah, certainly. We can really see that if a government values the press freedom and human rights in general, that makes a difference. Like we see improvements in Poland. We see that Estonia is now on place too. It's the best EU country immediately after Norway. And the government policies play a very important role there.
Thank you very much for coming in today. Anja Osterhaus from Reporters Without Borders.